to get from 6,050 applications down to 104 successful offers, what does it take to be successful? It all comes down to you. So what I'm going to run through over the next probably 15-20 minutes or so is just some practical assessment centre tips and exercises and how you can stand out and succeed in assessment centres going forward. So first of all, can we just have a show of hands of anyone who's been to an assessment centre before? No? One. Okay. Does anyone know why graduate recruiters run assessment centres? Okay. So it really is the core purpose of assessment centres are to create an environment for you to demonstrate what you would really be like on the job. So it gives a very good indicator of your possible potential in the workplace. And there are various the key skills that are being assessed are as follows. So we're looking to get a handle of your communication skills, about how you communicate professionally and with your peers also that will be attending the assessment centre. We're also looking for teamwork. A lot of the activities on an assessment centre are group-based as well as being individual. So we're looking for the contribution that you can make to a team. Thirdly, we're looking to see your problem-solving skills. A lot of the exercises at assessment centres are situational based. There are challenges, there are things you're going to have to think outside the box to solve. So they're really a means of assessing your problem-solving skills in a professional context. And finally, graduate development programs, by and large, they are management development programs. So we're looking at ways to spot our future leaders and people who are willing to, I suppose, take ownership of activities, be the leader and drive an activity forward to successful completion. So now I'm just going to run through just typical assessment centre activities, and for each of the activities as well, I'm just going to give you some tips on how you can stand out, prepare and ultimately be successful at assessment centre. So first of all is group work. So group work activities, they examine how you work with, persuade people and influence others. So key areas being assessed here are as follows. Your level of participation. So in group work, assessors are looking for people with consistent levels of participation. And it's relevant participation we're talking about here. We're also looking for logical reasoning, that you're given a problem, that you're able to work to a logical solution and conclusion, and you're able to influence and bring others around to that conclusion also. We're also looking for reaction. So, you're in a group environment, not everyone is going to agree with you. You have a particular viewpoint that you think is the way forward. If someone else quite blankly disagrees with you, how do you handle that? So keep in mind of your reactions. So how to succeed in group activities? So first of all, be involved. This is not the time for shyness. You might have had very good points written down in your preparation, but no one is going to know unless you speak out, put your points forward, and get involved in the exercise. Have a set of points prepared for each topic so that you have something to contribute to the conversation at every level of the group of task. So debate topics, I suppose it's good to agree and to take in other viewpoints as well, but if you don't agree with a point that someone is making and you have a better, well thought out alternative, put it forward and debate your points. Debate doesn't mean argue. Debate is having a well-rounded discussion and appreciation of other people's points of view as well. And we're looking for consistent contribution. One of the worst things you will see in a group exercise from an assessor point of view is someone who is talking for the sake of talking. Okay? You will need to get your point across and you will need to have valid airtime, but make sure that your contribution is relevant, it's to the point. In group work as well, it's important that there is a leader has to emerge in a group, so take the leadership from the outset. A lot of these activities as well are timed. Be the timekeeper. Keep your group to task. A lot of the points as well will have, a lot of these activities will have a certain number of problems and challenges for you to complete in a specified time frame. So be the person who has the plan that, guys, we're spending 10 minutes on this particular point, and keep the group to time basically, and keep the group to task. Be the note taker, summarizer for the group, but be careful of getting locked into that position. You'd see it often that the person might take the pen to take notes to be seen to be involved, but they get stuck in that position and they're just used as a secretary almost in the exercise as well. If you do find yourself being locked into the position of note taker, use it to your advantage and summarize your points, ask for consensus, so it still shows that you're being involved in the group and your own points are not getting sidelined. It's just really important to be consistent, be relevant. If there are quieter members involved in the group as well, that you look for ways to bring them in. So it's not all about you, it's how you work together and persuade and influence people. And be proactive as well. So that goes back to the whole point of taking the leadership, taking command of time, making sure that your group gets the task completed and the time allocated. It does require someone with quite strict timekeeping. So presentation is another aspect that's very popular in assessment centres. So presentation can take a number of forms. It can be a pre-prepared presentation where you're asked in advance to prepare on a particular topic. This can be business related, it could be related to the industry, or it could be a personal topic, such as a personal pitch on yourself as well. Very often as well, the presentations are given maybe the evening before the assessment centre, or maybe on the morning itself, so you may not have that much time to prepare. So how to succeed at presentations? It's very important that you do allow adequate time to prepare. So as I said, sometimes you might know in advance, and if you do, this is great. You need to, I suppose, if you know in advance, do a good bit of independent research and do a lot of, I suppose, external research as well, that you can really showcase your knowledge, what you know about the particular industry, etc. You can bring something very, very different to the table if you have time to prepare. If you're only given the presentation the morning, just make sure you read it thoroughly, that you're making sure that you're answering everything that you're asked, and that you're clear on the task as well. Effective use of resources. So, sometimes it can be, like a case that is today, it could be a PowerPoint presentation that you're using. Sometimes it could just be to present your points on a flip chart paper. And that can be a bit challenging on the days today when we're so used to presenting things on PowerPoint as well. So bear in mind that there's a number of ways that you can present your topic. Just with PowerPoints as well, it really depends on the type of role that you're going for. If you're going for a very sales, marketing, or even a creative type of a role, obviously having a very creative presentation and having something that's very visually appealing is going to be very useful, and it will help you stand out. For other particular areas, having a lovely bells and whistles presentation is fantastic, and it's lovely for an assessor to see, but if your points aren't relevant, and if your information is getting cluttered with all your animations and so on as well, it's going to be very, very confusing for your assessor. So like any of the presentations that you do in college, be mindful of your audience and be mindful of the role that you're going for as well. Make sure that your presentation has a logical structure, so it has a clear introduction. It has good use of content I suppose your main content is answering the questions that you're asked and drawing this particular situation to a conclusion at the end. So a beginning, middle and end is really important here. And it's really important to engage your audience. So smile, eye contact, invite questions, and just basically make sure that your audience is following you and is engaged in your presentation. And above all, to make sure that your presentation is clear and concise. Okay? It goes back to good preparation and making sure that you have the most relative points included on your presentation. Again, a lot of these activities are timed, so practice, practice, practice. Make sure that if you have a 10 to 15 minute time slot allowed for your presentation, that you have timed it, and make sure that you have all your content delivered within that 10 to 15 minutes. The psychometric tests are another part of an assessment centre process, or can be another part of an assessment centre process, but most definitely they will form some part of a graduate application process. And these can take a number of different forms. So they can be verbal tests, they can be a numerical test, or they could be a test of more inductive or mechanical reasoning. So how to succeed in these? So basically make sure that you have a quiet and uninterrupted space to complete the test. There are a certain time allocation allowed for each of these tests, and you must complete the test in the time allocated. You get awarded for points or scores based on the number of questions you have completed correctly in the time that you've allocated. So important that you work fast with these tests. Bearing in mind, you'll know the number of questions that you have to complete, you'll know the time allocated to the test, so you can plan the amount of time you spend on questions. So don't get stuck on one particular question. If you find it's too difficult, move on and keep up with your time. So be honest. I suppose that goes back to more psychometric or personality type testing. Answer with them, just give your answers that are most true to yourself. Don't think in the back of your head, what do they want me to say here, okay? There's no right or wrong answers in a psychometric type of a test. It's really to gain, I suppose, an insight more in terms of your personality, your working style. So there is no right or wrong answer. So just be honest and do not try to answer with what you think the assessor is looking for. And finally, practice, practice, practice. Psychometric tests, particularly at graduate level, can be challenging, but there is a lot of online resources as well that can help you practice and succeed in these tests. The majority of tests are delivered by the provider SHL, so on their own website, SHL's website, there are some practice questions that you can complete, and also any of your careers advisors and career officers as well will be able to point you towards resources that will be able to assist you in practicing and preparing for psychometric tests. So in-tray exercises, now these are rare enough, but they can still take place within an assessment centre. And basically these could be either an in-tray exercise or an email exercise. And it's basically where you're given a number of different tasks or a number of different emails, and you have to decide which ones to complete in order of priority. So advice on how to succeed in these such exercises would be to think logically, to you what is a priority and be able to explain why you think a particular task or a particular email should be seen to first, and be able to give logical reasons to explain your decisions. You will more than likely be challenged across any one of the activities here today in terms of why did you pick this decision, and it's important that you're able to back up your decision with logic and you have a well thought out process for making your decisions. Case studies are another assessment centre exercise that you could be asked to do. So a case study, it could be specific to the company that you're applying to. It could be maybe a Harvard Business Review case study specific to the industry you're applying to. It could be based on fact. It could be a fictional case study where it's going to face or highlight problems, issues that you must come up with solutions for. So how to succeed here? So it's important that you read the questions first to gain an understanding of really what am I going to be asked to deliver on here. Read the case study thoroughly. So read the case study at least 3 times. And look out for little subtleties as well. So minor details that you might potentially overlook on your first read through the case, but actually could have a very important bearing on your solution. So it's important to read it thoroughly and really understand what are the issues that you're faced with. Highlight areas of importance. Come up with some structured answers. So I suppose what this means really is to present the problem, why you think it's a problem, and highlight your solution. So in your response you need to be thinking problem, solution, problem, solution. And think outside the box. Do not focus on just giving back the issue that you've been presented on in the case study. We have given you that information. We're looking for something extra. That's what's going to make you stand out. So bring in any industry knowledge that you may have. Maybe find a reference to another case study that you might have completed as part of your college studies and draw references there. We like to see people that have done some independent research and really can think outside the box and can really understand the industry or the particular context of the issues that they're faced with. So social activities. So these could be throughout the day of the assessment centre, or it could be the evening before an assessment centre. So it could be maybe the evening before, there might be a group dinner where you come and meet the potential assessors, maybe past graduates, managers maybe of the company. And you'll also meet your peers who will be at the assessment centre the next day also. And it also refers to activities that take place throughout the day of the assessment centre. So lunchtime, coffee breaks and so on as well. You are still being assessed, even if it's a social activity. So how to succeed here? So ask questions. So we used to do this a lot with Kerry before. We used to have a meal the night before our assessment centres, and I think one of the reasons we kind of stopped doing it was people just wouldn't talk, okay? And you know, you're there, you've been interviewing all day yourself as an assessor, you come for the dinner in the evening as well, you're looking forward to some conversation, and it's almost hard work again trying to pull teeth and get people to make conversation. So we're all human at the end of the day, so don't be afraid to ask questions, initiate conversation. It does not have to be work related. The weather is a great opening. Things like sports games, anything your own personal interest as well, it doesn't have to be work related. Just shows, you know, you're human, you're able to carry a conversation, you'll be able to get on with people in a workplace. So be yourself is quite important as well. So, you know, be friendly, be open, talk to the other managers there. It'll really help you to get an insight of what it's really like to work in a place. By just having just very informal chats with people, you'll learn an awful lot that way. The last point might seem a little bit obvious, but if there, especially might be the night before, there might be a drinks reception or so on. It might be the student mentality to go, oh God, they're giving us a load of free drink here, better load up. But you have a long assessment centre in the morning, so while it's nice to be able to take a social drink, do not drink too much. So all assessment centres usually conclude with a final round interview, and these are competency based. So what competency-based means, they're asking for you to provide examples of how you behaved in particular situations. An interview at this level as well is to really probe in depth your interest and suitability for the role. Okay? You probably will have had a pre-screening interview at this stage as well, maybe a telephone interview, it might have been another face-to-face interview, but this is the final stage in interviewing, so it's really going to get in depth. You know, probing why do you really want this role, why are you suitable for it, and you need to be putting across, I suppose, you know, this is your last chance really to impress and to get across why you really are the best person for this role. And it's your opportunity as well. You're in a one-to-one environment, probably one of the few activities throughout an assessment centre where you'll be on one-to-one with the assessors, and you'll be able to talk and chat a little bit more, and you will be able to find out more about the role and ask any questions that you may have. So how to succeed at interviews? So do your homework, which means know your CV and application inside out. Make sure that for every college project that you have listed, every one of your subjects, that you're able to explain, you know, the skills that you've achieved and how you can bring value to the company. Know the company. This is really, really important as well. That you know the company, you're very clear on what type of different divisions they have within the company, who their customers are, the industry that they operate in. But again, like with the last presentation from Musgraves as well, what you know about currently is happening in the news with the company, what's the turnover, what's the share price, all this type of information. So know the industry as well, so go beyond a general website search into the own company's website. Know the industry, know the trends, and be able to talk about these. So have structured answers to the interview questions. So the STAR technique might be something that you would have learned before. So that's describe the situation, the task, the action, and the result. And I have a slide coming up on that in just a sec. Prepare for difficult questions. So you will be asked things like, have you ever worked with a difficult person? What do you feel are your areas for development? Don't try to cop out of these questions by saying, I don't know, or I don't have an example. The assessor will look for other ways to ask you that question. And If it can be feel that you're being really closed book and not really engaging, don't see it in your point of view that I really skillfully avoided that question. You will keep being asked until you can provide a suitable answer. And finally, be honest, okay? Don't try and put on a show or tell the interviewer, what they think you want them to say, what you want them to hear even. Be very honest. Ultimately, if you're successful, you're going to end up working for this company. So be very honest, and interviewer will be very honest with you as well. So just to explain the STAR model for interview success. So first of all, it's just to give you a bit of context for structuring your answers for competency-based interviews. So the S stands for situation. So if the question was, for example, to describe a time where you worked with a difficult person, first of all, you're going to begin with setting the scene and describing the situation. So when it was, what was the particular project you were working on? So the task, this is what you were asked to do in a particular situation. So within the difficult person, say, example, so the situation, this is why you had to work with a difficult person. This is how it was difficult. The action, this is what you did to, I suppose, address the problem with the difficult person. So what did you do about it? Did you go about and set up a meeting with them? Did you try and talk with them? What did you do? And then finally, the R is for result. So what was the result of your action, say? So what actually was the outcome? So this just gives you a bit of a structure that your answers have a beginning, middle, and end, and they have a flow. And we can really see from the end of your answer, that what you took to task, what you achieved, and what was the end result of it. Just more general advice on preparing for assessment centres. First of all, it's be professional. So a lot of workplaces these days are more and more casual. We would still advise that everyone would dress in professional dress. Again, it's the firm handshake, eye contact, be friendly, be professional. So get stuck in. So as the slide said, don't just sit there, get involved. This is probably one of your last shots to really show what you would be like in action and what you can do. So don't just sit back. It's not a time for shyness. It's a time to get it stuck in and really show the company what you can do. Don't lose concentration. It is a long day. A lot of assessment centres start quite early in the morning, finish quite late in the evening. So you do need to stay calm and keep focused throughout the day. Don't put all your eggs, I suppose, in one basket in terms of activities. So what we'd always advise people is don't stay up all night fretting about the presentation or the interview. It is just one part of an overall day. What you will be marked and judged on at the end of the day is consistency throughout all activities. So it's important to bear in mind not to put everything into one particular activity. It's a long day to try and keep consistency and keep momentum. So don't act a part. You're not on The Apprentice. A lot of people, these are like simulated leadership activities as well. So some people tend to go quite overboard in terms of really showing their leadership powers and so on as well, and be quite domineering and just really focusing on themselves and getting themselves a job. That is not going to bring you success at an assessment centre. Assessment centres are all about, I suppose, getting to know the person. Is the person a team player? Think back to the skills that you're being assessed on. Are you a team player? Are you a good problem solver? Can you be a leader? If you're all about yourself, you're not going to be a team player, you're not going to be a leader.